Johnny Carson walked into Jack Paar's final taping with a briefcase containing his entire life savings. What he did next changed television history forever. March 29th, 1962. Johnny Carson got the call at 11:23 p.m. It's happening. Jack's announcing tomorrow. 3 words that changed everything. Jack Paar, the most powerful man in late-night television, was stepping down from The Tonight Show. The throne of American entertainment was about to be vacant. Johnny hung up the phone and sat perfectly still in his small apartment. His mentor, his rival, his measuring stick, Jack Paar, was leaving. After 5 years of hosting The Tonight Show, Jack had built an empire worth millions in advertising revenue. He'd made and broken careers with a single monologue. He'd changed how America consumed entertainment. And now he was walking away. Johnny's wife, Jody, came into the room. "What's wrong?" "Jack's leaving The Tonight Show." Jody's eyes widened. "Oh my God, does that mean—" "I don't know what it means yet." But Johnny knew exactly what it meant. Because Johnny Carson understood something nobody else in television understood yet. When a king abdicates, there's a war for succession. The Tonight Show generated $20 million a year for NBC. Every comedian, every variety show host, every radio personality in America wanted that chair. Steve Allen wanted it back. Joey Bishop was campaigning for it. Bob Newhart was being considered. Even Jerry Lewis had thrown his hat in the ring. And nobody was thinking about Johnny Carson. Johnny was just a game show host, the guy from Who Do You Trust on ABC. Someone with decent timing and a nice smile, but not someone you built a network around. Not someone you trusted with the crown jewel of late-night television. That was about to change. Johnny stood up and started pacing. Jody watched him carefully. "Where are you going?" "To the bank." "The bank?" "Johnny, it's almost midnight. First thing tomorrow morning, I need to make a withdrawal." "How much?" Johnny looked at his wife. "Everything I have." The next morning, Johnny Carson walked into Chase Manhattan Bank and withdrew $50,000 in cash. In 1962, that was equivalent to nearly $500,000 today. Every penny Johnny had saved from 7 years in television, his entire safety net. Jody was waiting outside. "Johnny, what are you planning?" "I'm going to Jack's final taping tonight, and I'm walking in with this briefcase." "Are you insane? Someone could rob you. The network could think you're crazy." Johnny lit a cigarette. "Everyone in that studio tonight is going to be figuring out who gets The Tonight Show next. Every executive, every agent, every competitor. If I'm walking into that room, I'm walking in like the only legitimate heir, not like a game show host, like the next king of late night." "But Johnny, trust me." The taping was at NBC Studio 6B in Rockefeller Center, the same studio where The Tonight Show had been broadcast for 5 years. It was packed beyond capacity, standing room only. Every seat filled with network executives, celebrities, comedians, and entertainment power brokers. Sitting in the front rows were the contenders: Steve Allen, looking confident; Joey Bishop, working the room; Bob Newhart, quiet and calculating. Even Milton Berle had shown up, just in case. Johnny Carson arrived 30 minutes late, on purpose. He walked through those studio doors wearing an impeccable dark suit, thin tie, and carrying a leather briefcase. Every head turned. Who invited Carson? The game show guy? What's he doing here? People turned back to their conversations. Johnny wasn't a threat. He was just another face in the crowd, another comedian paying respects to the departing king. Johnny didn't sit down. He walked straight to the stage, right to where Jack Paar's desk sat under the lights. Set the briefcase down, opened it. The studio fell silent. Johnny reached into the briefcase and pulled out a stack of $100 bills. $10,000, bound together. He placed it on Jack Paar's desk. The audience gasped. Then Johnny pulled out another stack, another 10,000. Placed it next to the first, then another, and another, and another. 5 stacks. $50,000 in cash, sitting on Jack Paar's desk under the hot studio lights. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The cameramen forgot they were supposed to be setting up. The executives in the front row sat frozen. Johnny Carson, the game show host, the nobody from Who Do You Trust, had just placed his entire life savings on Jack Paar's desk in front of 300 of the most powerful people in entertainment. Then Johnny did something even bolder. He turned to face the audience. Faced every executive, every competitor, every person who would decide The Tonight Show's future. and he spoke. "My name is Johnny Carson. For the past 7 years, I've been learning this business, learning from the best. Jack Paar taught me something that nobody else in this room seems to understand. In television, you're either somebody or you're nobody, and the only way to prove you're somebody is to show people what you're willing to risk." Johnny gestured to the money on the desk. Jack Paar built something extraordinary. The Tonight Show isn't just a program, it's an institution. It's America's living room. It's where this country comes together every single night to laugh, to think, to feel something. That's not something you hand off to just anyone. That's something you protect. That's something you honor. The studio remained silent. Johnny continued. "I know what everyone in this room is thinking. You're thinking about who should replace Jack. You're making your lists. Steve Allen, he created the format. Joey Bishop, he's got the connections. Bob Newhart, he's the hot new thing." Johnny shook his head. "You're all thinking about the wrong question. The question isn't who deserves it. The question isn't who's the biggest name. The question is who understands what Jack built, who respects it enough to protect it, who's willing to put everything on the line to prove they're serious." Johnny pointed at the money. "I just put $50,000, my entire life savings, on this desk, not as a bribe, not as a publicity stunt, but as a statement. I'm stating that I believe in The Tonight Show so much that I'm willing to bet my entire future on it. Every penny I've earned, every sacrifice my family has made, every hour I've spent learning this craft, it's all right there." He locked eyes with the NBC executives in the front row. "I'm not the biggest name in this room. I'm not the safest choice. I'm not the person you were planning to pick. But I'm the person who understands what this show needs. It needs someone who will show up every single night. Someone who won't walk away when things get difficult. Someone who sees this as a responsibility, not just an opportunity." Johnny turned to Steve Allen. "Steve, you created something brilliant, but you walked away from it because you wanted to do other things. That's your right, but The Tonight Show needs someone who won't walk away." He turned to Joey Bishop. "Joey, you've got connections. You've got Hollywood. But The Tonight Show isn't about Hollywood. It's about connecting with people in their homes. Regular people. People who work hard and just want to laugh before they go to sleep." He turned to Bob Newhart. "Bob, you're talented. You're smart. But you're thinking about this as a stepping stone, as something that leads to the next thing. I'm thinking about this as the thing, the only thing, the thing I'll dedicate the rest of my career to." The studio erupted, people shouting, executives standing. Steve Allen looked furious. Joey Bishop was shaking his head, but Johnny Carson didn't flinch. He turned back to Jack Pair's desk, to his $50,000 sitting under the lights. "This money represents everything I have, everything I've worked for, and I'm leaving it here tonight as proof that I'm serious. As proof that Johnny Carson isn't just another comedian looking for a break. I'm someone who understands what's at stake." Then Johnny looked directly at the NBC executives. "You have a decision to make. You can give The Tonight Show to someone safe, someone expected, someone who won't ruffle any feathers, or you can take a chance on someone who just proved he's willing to risk everything, someone who sees this opportunity not as a job, but as a calling." Johnny picked up his empty briefcase. "The money stays there until you make your decision. If you choose me, consider it my first investment in the show. If you choose someone else, give it to Jack as a retirement gift. Either way, tonight you learned something about Johnny Carson that nobody knew before." He looked around the studio one final time. "You learned that I'm not here to play games. I'm here to win, and I'm willing to bet everything I have to prove it." Johnny Carson walked out of that studio. Every eye followed him, every executive calculating whether he was brilliant or insane. The answer would come 3 weeks later. Johnny Carson drove home in silence. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. He'd just done the most audacious thing anyone had ever done in television. Claimed the throne in front of 300 witnesses, put his entire life savings on display to prove he was serious, and challenged every established name in the business to their faces. Jody was waiting at their apartment. Her expression was a mix of shock and fear. "Johnny, what did you just do?" "I took my shot." "You just threw away $50,000. That's everything we have. The mortgage, the kids' education, our emergency fund, gone. What if they don't pick you? What if they think you're crazy? Johnny sat down heavily. Then we start over. But at least I'll have tried. At least I'll know I gave it everything. What if this ruins your career? What if NBC blacklists you? What if... The phone rang. Johnny and Jody stared at it. 3 rings. 4. Johnny picked up. Yes? Mr. Carson, this is Robert Kintner, president of NBC. Johnny's heart stopped. Yes, sir. That was quite a performance tonight. It wasn't a performance, sir. It was a promise. There was a long pause. We need to talk. Can you come to 30 Rock tomorrow morning? 9 a.m. sharp. I'll be there. The line went dead. Jody looked at him. What did he say? He wants to meet tomorrow. Is that good or bad? I have no idea. Johnny Carson arrived at NBC headquarters at 8:45 a.m. He wore the same suit from the night before, hadn't slept, couldn't eat. Everything was riding on this meeting. He was escorted to the executive floor, to a conference room where 5 men waited. Robert Kintner, NBC president, David Sarnoff Jr., RCA executive, 2 network vice presidents, and Jack Paar himself. Johnny's stomach dropped when he saw Jack. Jack Paar looked tired but amused. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit down, Johnny. Johnny sat. Kintner spoke first. That was quite a statement you made last night. I meant every word of it. $50,000 is a lot of money to throw around. It's not throwing it around. It's investing it in something I believe in. Jack Paar leaned forward. Johnny, why did you really do that? Was it a publicity stunt? Were you trying to manipulate us? Johnny looked Jack directly in the eyes. Jack, you've been in this chair for 5 years. You've had every network executive, every sponsor, every critic telling you what to do, telling you to be safer, to be less controversial, to be more commercial, and you ignored them. You did what you thought was right. You built something genuine. Johnny paused. I did what I did because I wanted you, and everyone else, to know that I understand what you built, that I respect it, that I won't let it become some watered-down corporate product. I put that money on your desk because that's what respect looks like. That's what commitment looks like. Jack smiled slightly. You know that money is still sitting on my desk, right? Nobody's touched it. It stays there until you tell me what to do with it. Kintner cut in. Here's our problem. Johnny, you're not the safe choice. Steve Allen created the format. He's proven. Joey Bishop has star power. You're a game show host. I was a game show host, Johnny corrected. Now I'm the person who just proved he'll risk everything for The Tonight Show. None of those other guys did that. None of them were willing to put their money where their mouth is. One of the vice presidents spoke up. But what if you fail? What if the audience doesn't connect with you? What if sponsors don't like you? We can't afford a mistake here. This show generates $20 million a year. Johnny leaned forward. Then let me prove it. Give me a trial period, 6 months. If I fail, if the ratings drop, if sponsors pull out, I'll walk away. No complaints, no contract disputes. I'll even refund my salary. But if I succeed, if I prove that I can hold this audience and build something even bigger than what Jack built, then you give me a 5-year contract. The executives looked at each other. David Sarnoff Jr. spoke for the first time. You'd agree to a 6-month trial with no guaranteed contract? Yes, because I'm not worried about failing. I know I can do this. Jack Paar stood up. Gentlemen, can I have a moment alone with Johnny? The executives filed out. It was just Jack and Johnny. Jack walked to the window, looked out over Manhattan. You know why I'm leaving, Johnny? You're tired. I'm exhausted. This job requires everything. Every single night you're expected to be brilliant, to be funny, to be insightful, to connect with millions of people you'll never meet. It eats you alive. I've had 3 nervous breakdowns doing this show. 3. Jack turned to face Johnny. So before you commit to this, before you take that money off my desk and sign that contract, I need you to understand what you're signing up for. This isn't just a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a prison. You'll miss your kids growing up. You'll miss anniversaries. You'll miss everything normal people get to experience because you'll be in a studio every single night performing for an audience that will never love you as much as you sacrifice for them. Johnny stood up. Jack, I know what I'm signing up for. I've watched you do this for 5 years. I've studied every show, every interview, every moment. I know the cost, and I'm willing to pay it. Why? Because some of us are meant for this. Some of us need this. I don't want a normal life, Jack. I want to be in that studio every night. I want to be the voice America trusts. I want to build something that matters. Jack studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled. You're going to be better than me. What? You're going to be better than me because you're not doing this for ego. You're not doing this for fame. You're doing this because you actually love the work. That's rare, Johnny. That's special. Jack walked to the door, opened it. Gentlemen, I've made my recommendation. Give Johnny Carson the job. October 1st, 1962. Johnny Carson's first night hosting The Tonight Show. The studio was packed. Press, celebrities, NBC executives. Everyone wanted to see if the game show host could handle the big chair. Johnny walked out to polite applause. Not thunderous, not overwhelming, just polite. He sat behind the desk, his desk now, and looked directly at the camera. Good evening. I'm Johnny Carson, and welcome to The Tonight Show. Then Johnny did something unexpected. He picked up an envelope from his desk. 6 months ago, I put $50,000 on this desk. I told NBC that I was willing to bet everything I had on this opportunity. Tonight, I want to show you what they did with that money. Johnny opened the envelope and pulled out a check. NBC took my $50,000 and donated it to the Actors Fund of America. They didn't want my money. They wanted my commitment. And I gave it to them. Not in cash, in a promise. A promise to show up every single night. To be honest, to be genuine, to never take this opportunity for granted. Johnny looked into the camera. So here's my promise to you, the audience. I promise to respect your time. I promise to make you laugh. I promise to bring you the most interesting people in the world and ask them the questions you want answered. And I promise to never forget that this isn't my show, it's yours. You're inviting me into your homes every night. That's a privilege I will never take for granted. The audience started clapping, slowly at first, then building. Johnny smiled. Now let's have some fun. My first guest tonight is... And just like that, Johnny Carson began his reign. From 1962 to 1992, Johnny Carson hosted The Tonight Show for 30 years. He interviewed over 22,000 guests. He delivered over 4,500 monologues. He became the most trusted voice in America. Johnny made stars: David Letterman, Jay Leno, Ellen DeGeneres, Jerry Seinfeld, all discovered or elevated by Carson. He broke records: 79 Emmy nominations, 6 wins, a Peabody Award, a Kennedy Center honor. He defined late-night television. Every host who came after, Letterman, Leno, Conan, Kimmel, Fallon, Colbert, they all followed the template Johnny created. But Johnny never forgot that first night. Never forgot the risk he took. Never forgot the briefcase. In a 1991 interview, his last year hosting, someone asked Johnny about the $50,000. Do you ever regret making that gesture? Betting everything you had? Johnny smiled. That wasn't a bet. That was the smartest investment I ever made. I wasn't buying The Tonight Show. I was buying credibility. I was buying respect. I was buying the right to prove myself. But you could have lost everything. I could have. But here's what I learned. The only way to win big is to risk big. If I'd played it safe, if I'd just auditioned like everyone else, I would have been just another name on a list. Instead, I did something nobody expected. Something bold. Something that made people see me differently. Johnny paused. That $50,000 bought me 30 years in this chair. It bought me a career. It bought me a legacy. That's not a bad return on investment. May 22nd, 1992. Johnny Carson's final episode of The Tonight Show. 50 million people tuned in to watch. The largest audience for a late-night show in history. Johnny sat behind that desk one last time, the same desk where 30 years earlier he'd placed his entire life savings. He delivered his final monologue, said goodbye to his audience, thanked his crew. Then, in his last moments on air, Johnny did something unexpected. He pulled out a small box from his desk drawer. 30 years ago, I put $50,000 on this desk. NBC donated it to charity, but they kept something for me, something I asked them to save. Johnny opened the box. Inside was a single $100 bill. This was the first bill from that stack, the first dollar of my $50,000 statement. NBC framed it and gave it back to me after my first year on the air, and I've kept it in this desk drawer ever since. Johnny held up the framed bill. This dollar reminds me of something important. Success isn't about how much money you make. It's about how much you're willing to risk. It's about showing up every single night and giving people something genuine, something real. Johnny's voice cracked slightly. Thank you for letting me into your homes for 30 years. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for laughing with me. It's been the honor of my lifetime. The audience gave him a standing ovation that lasted nearly 10 minutes. Johnny Carson walked off that stage for the last time. The king of late night was stepping down. Johnny Carson died on January 23, 2005, at age 79. Emphysema. He'd been retired for 13 years. His funeral was private, no cameras, no press, just family and close friends. But the tributes came from everywhere. Every late-night host dedicated their shows to him. Presidents issued statements. The entertainment industry mourned collectively. David Letterman said it best. Johnny Carson was the most important person in the history of television. He defined what it meant to be a host. He showed us how to talk to people, how to listen, how to make them feel comfortable. Everything I am, everything I've accomplished, I owe to Johnny. Jay Leno added, Johnny took a chance on me when nobody else would. He brought me on The Tonight Show when I was nobody. He made me a star. He did that for dozens of us. And he never asked for anything in return except that we be good at what we do. But perhaps the most meaningful tribute came from someone unexpected. Steve Allen, the man who'd been furious when Johnny claimed the throne in 1962, wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. I was wrong about Johnny Carson. When he walked into that studio with $50,000, I thought it was a stunt, a desperate move by a desperate man. But it wasn't. It was a declaration. Johnny was declaring that he understood what The Tonight Show meant, that he would protect it, that he would honor it. And for 30 years he kept that promise. He built something greater than anything I could have imagined. He became not just a host, but an institution. Johnny Carson wasn't just the king of late night. He was the king who earned his throne. What did Johnny Carson teach us? He taught us that boldness wins. He taught us that sometimes the craziest move is the smartest move. He taught us that real power isn't loud, it's consistent. For 30 years, Johnny showed up. Every single night. Through personal tragedy, through criticism, through changing times, he showed up. He never tried to be the biggest personality, never tried to dominate the conversation. He let his guests shine. He let the moment breathe, and that's why people trusted him. That $50,000 gesture wasn't about the money. It was about proving he understood the weight of the opportunity, about showing respect, about demonstrating commitment. Johnny Carson could have played it safe, could have auditioned normally, could have let his work speak for itself. But he didn't. He walked into that studio with everything he had and placed it on the line. And that moment, that single, audacious moment, changed television history. Because Johnny Carson proved something essential. The throne doesn't go to the most talented person. It doesn't go to the most connected person. It doesn't go to the safest choice. The throne goes to the person willing to risk everything to claim it. In 1962, Johnny Carson was nobody, just a game show host with a briefcase full of cash and a dream. By 1992, he was the most trusted voice in America. That's the power of one bold move. That's the power of believing in yourself when nobody else does. That's the power of betting everything on your vision. In Johnny Carson's private papers released after his death, there was a handwritten note dated October 1st, 1962, his first night hosting The Tonight Show. It read, "Today I became the host of The Tonight Show. Not because I was the most talented, not because I was the safest choice, but because I was willing to risk everything. I put $50,000 on a desk and told the world, I believe in this, I believe in myself, and I'm willing to prove it. That briefcase changed my life. Not because of what was in it, but because of what it represented. Total commitment, absolute belief, complete willingness to fail spectacularly rather than succeed safely. If I do this right, 30 years from now, people will remember that moment. They'll remember the briefcase. They'll remember that Johnny Carson wasn't given anything. He earned it. And maybe, just maybe, someone else will see what I did and realize they can do it too. They can walk into their biggest opportunity with everything they have, and demand to be taken seriously. That's my real legacy. Not the jokes, not the interviews, but the lesson. Bet on yourself, even when nobody else will, especially when nobody else will. Johnny Carson kept that note in his desk drawer for 30 years, right next to the framed $100 bill, a reminder, a promise, a legacy. Johnny Carson, 1925-2005. The man who walked into a studio with $50,000 and walked out a king. The man who proved that sometimes the boldest move is the smartest move. The man who showed us that staying power is more valuable than flash. Johnny Carson is gone, but the legend of that briefcase, the legend of that moment, that legend lives forever.